Hello, and welcome to the Rest, Repair, Recover podcast. I'm Suzy Bolt. This is a space for anyone who's navigating chronic illness. We are here to share real stories, helpful insights, and honest conversations about what it really takes to help yourself heal a tiny bit every day. So whether you're in bed listening, you're on a gentle walk, or you're just needing some company as you go about your day, I'm so glad that you're here. So a very, very warm welcome to one of my students, Mark Taylor, who has a story to share with our community about recovery and hope and the things that have changed him along the way and what he has learned about himself and life on this roller coaster journey that many of us are on. So without further ado, I am going to be introducing you to Mark in Berkshire, as people like to identify themselves with their first name and their location in my community. Mark in Berkshire, welcome to my chat room here. It is lovely to have you with me.
It's lovely to see you, Suzy. It's been a couple of years, 18 months.
It has.
Yeah.
It has. And Mark is only available to chat because he's off work again, not because he's had a flare-up of symptoms or a kind of next round crash, because he's broken his ankle skiing. And I'm going to jump in and nab him because he made a post into my community Facebook group that was sharing some of the most extraordinary things. And I thought, first of all, I didn't know that these were things that had been your big kind of aha moments and epiphanies. But wouldn't it be incredible to get you in to talk to other people about it? So, Mark, first of all, a very warm welcome. Just tell me a little bit about you and your job and what you're doing now so that we have a context for all of this.
Yeah, so I'm a primary school teacher, full-time. I'm currently teaching year 5, which is 9-10-year-olds. And at the school I'm at, they kind of shuffle you around different age groups. So I've taught lots of the age groups in that particular primary school. I'm 48 and I live at home with my wife, and my children are 16 and 13. So they're very busy with homework and GCSEs and all of that kind of stuff.
Wow. Okay. So you're 100% back at work. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes. Yeah. I started again full time in October 2003. So I've been back full time from October 2003 up to now.
Okay. Wow. Do you mean 2003 or do you mean 2000?
2023. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Just checking.
Maths teacher.
It's going well. So what I want to know next, obviously, is tell us about what happened. So why did you end up needing to find me, the program, the community, etc.? What happened? What's the story?
Yes. Okay. So I kind of related to being at school, I think. Ended up, there was a lot of virus and COVID around and working from home, but we were back in a lot with children with higher needs and children whose parents are working. I got COVID in November 2020. Nothing majorly serious, it felt like at the time. You know, this is a story you've heard lots of times, but it felt like bad flu for maybe 7 to 10 days. Yeah. So I was off school for maybe a couple of weeks, back to school, and long COVID hit me in January. So about a month after, we went for a long walk locally. Nothing majorly long, nothing different than what we would normally do at the weekend. And I came home and felt like I'd run a marathon at top speed and was completely wiped out. Was worried, didn't know what that was. Clearly, I didn't initially think long COVID because I didn't really know what long COVID was. And then that kind of started a cycle. So we're now in January 2021 of me just being completely exhausted, feeling like my definition was that I felt like I had flu-like symptoms. I had the flu, and that just kept yo-yoing for so from January 21 all the way up till Christmas 22. I was off school quite a lot. I always felt like I had flu. I had numerous times where the lateral flow tests had a faint red line, and I was like, how many times am I actually getting COVID? I've no idea. So I still don't know what was going on with that, whether that was my body putting out some kind of immune response to kind of, and it showing up on that, but who knows? I clearly had actually contracted COVID a few times during those couple of years.
Yeah.
So then Christmas holidays, where we at? December 2022, I just completely broke down, for want of a better word. Holidays were terrible. It's that kind of teachery thing where you work really hard, your body, you push off all the stuff, and then a holiday hits and your body just kind of gives up, and I was a lot more than just a flu. Like mentally, I was struggling. Everything, I was struggling. I didn't want to go back to school. I couldn't cope with it. Went to the doctors, and they prescribed me with antidepressants and signed me off work for a month. Again, during that time, I guess those 2 years, long COVID, I decided I must have long COVID, but I didn't really. Again, it's hard to define and it's hard to diagnose, as we all know.
And so just in those 2 years, whilst you were kind of aware that there was something going on, your sense of commitment to your job and your need to show up, you just kept essentially, and these words we all know are the kind of the enemy, pushing through, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think part of the problem was during those 2 years is that I had a challenging class at school, which I'd had in year 5, with lots of different needs. At the end of year 5, or near the end of year 5, I volunteered to take them again into year 6 because I built quite a strong relationship with them, and everyone in the school was like, "Are you sure? Are you sure you can cope with another year?" And so I went with it because they were lovely kids and it was kind of working well. But I think that was part of the problem, is that I was fried in those 2 years. That class fried me, and the pattern in those 2 years is that I was coming home 5, 6 o'clock and literally going to bed without eating. I was coming home so exhausted that my family hardly saw me. I would have a bowl of yogurt and muesli when I got home, and then just be like, "I'm out. I'm going to bed." And I was sleeping in the spare room. I was so like, my relationship with my family was not good. I just wasn't seeing them very much. So school was taking absolutely everything out of me. I was giving everything to the job, kind of thing. That was part of the problem.
Oh my goodness, Mark, that just sounds utterly exhausting. There must have been a point in amongst all of that you were thinking something's got to give. Did you kind of reach that point where you thought, actually, am I prioritizing the right things here?
I guess I did some research on what long COVID was. I joined some long COVID Facebook groups and tried different vitamins, or whatever the magic bullet might be, and I tried different things. Oh, maybe this vitamin will help me. Maybe this thing will help me. I lose track slightly of the timeline, but I just didn't know what to do. I was just scared because we needed the money, and I that was my job. It was difficult to know what to give, I guess. And I guess the conversation I had with the doctor before she signed me off for a month, whilst as we know it was long COVID related, I guess I sounded like someone who needed a break from work, and that was her advice.
Yeah. And you obviously were physically, emotionally, and mentally not even on the edge anymore. You'd fallen off the edge. You'd gone. Yeah. So then talk to me about what was the beginning of your awareness of everything that you've since gone on to do to help yourself pull back to who you are now.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of being signed off sick was a big, I didn't expect it when I went to see the doctor. And I think I spent a couple of weeks in shock, I guess, just really upset. Didn't really know what to do. Felt like I was letting everybody down. Um, Found probably near the end of January, so near a month into it, I found your RRR class and joined that. I went to a long COVID clinic at my local hospital, Royal Berks in Reading,
Okay.
and which was in the pain management clinic. And I left there in tears. I've got a very strong memory of phoning my wife in tears in like a corridor, having after someone told me that we don't know what to do. There's nothing we can do. We're waiting for a solution. The poor girl lady didn't know what to say really, and I left in bits. And interestingly, in that conversation with her, she said, "We've heard some people say that a meditation might help. Apparently, a body scan is a good one." That that's what she said.
Don't find that.
Yeah, go and find a body scan, and that. Some people have said that's going to help, and it goes back to this kind of like concept that I've got of searching for the magic solution.
Yeah.
We were all like searching for what the solution is.
Yeah.
And, I went home and found a body scan on YouTube and laid down and did it and hoped that, there we go, that's going to solve the problem. And
if I do that twice, will I see a difference?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was kind of, So I started your classes. And kind of near the end of the month, my headspace changed from kind of despair to like, right, I've got to see this as an opportunity to find what's going on. And and I kind of completely changed what I was doing. I stopped kind of laying on the sofa watching the television and started kind of reading more and not just looking for this magic bullet, but like there's got to be something bigger going on. So I was doing your classes, and then, but I guess still going back to that body scan thing, I was doing a yoga class or a meditation class and still be like, right, is this going to solve it? Without knowing the knowledge of why that's going to help me.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Like, what's the actual science behind this? Like, why are we doing this in the first place?
And I think that's so. So then I signed up for your Fern class, Fern program, and that began in the beginning of March, the one that I took part in.
Yeah.
So January, February, I got signed off for another 2 months at the end of January, which I think by then I was kind of in a better mindset. I was like, this is what I need. I'm not better. Yeah. And I feel like I've started on the road of finding what's better. So having more time, I got to grips with it. That school was fine. The children will be fine. I got to look after me and sort out for me and my family.
So I love that, because a lot of people really struggle with that piece right there. That piece where they go, actually, in order to get better, I need to put my own recovery as the most important thing on my to-do list. Yeah. Absolutely 100%. And for some people, especially if they have jobs like yours, where they feel such a kind of sense of connection, obligation, and duty, you're going to be letting people down. And that is such a difficult hurdle for some people to get over, that I can't let people down. I just need to keep showing up and dragging myself in and being present in this half-cooked state.
Yeah.
So I love that you had a moment of going, okay, right, this is my job. I'm going to focus on me 100%. Amazing.
I think I must have read a few different books about that, and the kind of analogy about when you're on aircraft that you put on your life jacket first before your family. And that really stuck with me. I've got to look after me. When I'm 100%, then I can give everything to my family, and my family will get more from me. I'm a better person for them.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay. I love this. So you started Fern, and I know it was obviously a while ago now, but what were the sticky moments for you? What's been really kind of like got that moment was a biggie?
Um, yeah, I guess I see Fern as the kind of diving board off to me learning so much more things. The two books that you asked us to read, the Alan Gordon one and the Cured Dr. Jeff Rediger.
Yeah.
That's it. Both of those, I completely devoured, and I think they are. I recommended them to so many people since, as people with not just long COVID, people with back pain that I know, and various chronic illness or chronic pain. Like the Alan Gordon one particularly has resonated with so many people that I'm friends with. So I think the everything in Fern really. The I guess the things that resonated with me most was the kind of excuse me if I get your terms wrong. 5% or 1%? How many
The
percent?
5% stretch.
5%.
Yeah.
5% stretch. So that really resonated. The kind of again, yeah, you said, put your bike helmet on, go to the end of the drive on day one. Day two, you're going to just cycle 100 meters and come back, and you're going to celebrate that this is fine, this is good, and you're just going to keep building that up. And that really resonated, and that's continued to resonate with me. That's such a good methodology to kind of getting better, because we all kind of like want to jump in and do everything.
Exactly. So let me just, for people listening, let me just explain the 5%. So Mark's 5% will be different to someone else's 5%. For someone else, their first 5% will be simply thinking about something without alarm or without attaching the I can't do that and I'm really sad about it. So let's say we've got someone who loves running and their kind of threshold is really low. So as in tolerance for movement, etc. So I would say that the first 5% would be a whole week or 2 weeks or even a month, just sitting in a chair and imagining yourself running again and loving it. That's the first 5% done. The second 5% might be putting on the shoes that you run in and just being in the kitchen in them and maybe, kind of putting some music on and playing like a kind of, dance running moment for 10 seconds. So it's about building up a relationship with something that you love in tiny, tiny increments. Someone's mountain climb might be somebody else's, getting on a bike and cycling to the end of the driveway. We're all really different. So I just want to talk about that, because if someone's listening to this going, okay, so day one, I put on my bike helmet, day two, I'm cycling. No, that's going to be unique to everyone that does the program. And it's about you being able to decide what's right for you in the moment. Essentially, it's about slowing people down and pulling people back from that piece of just rushing into something because they maybe get a little window in a day where they go, I feel a bit better today. I'm going to go for a bike ride. It's like, how about on that day, you simply just sit on the bike in the garage or, wherever it's held and just pedal backwards stationary and go, oh, look at me on my bike, get off, job done. So great. I love that the 5% was a biggie. Now,
and I think with the 5% as well, it's the kind of like not being disappointed that you haven't done a 10-mile run, that you're that brilliant, I've done my 100 meters or whatever it might be, or put on my shoes, but that's good, that's brilliant, I've achieved something today. And I think that kind of mental state was really important for me, of not being like, you've got to do, like you're feeling, just like you said, you're feeling good, so let's do some massive thing.
Exactly, let's do something big. And I think getting people to understand that everything that they're doing is working towards the thing that they want to do actually gives you a sense of, okay, so I'm not wasting my time doing this. It's actually really helping me. And I remind people of, very elite athletes do a lot of mental work visualizing themselves achieving things physically from a seated position. Thinking, it helps prepare the brain, the body interaction to do a thing well. So actually visualization, for those that can, is a super important part of this too. So just sitting in your chair and thinking about cycling is actually a 5% stretch. Brilliant. So I love that. one of the things that I'm going to ask you about, because you've sort of talked about this with your relationship with work anyway, was the drivers. So there's a piece that we do in Fern where we get to really identify what may have contributed towards you not putting your recovery center of your focus. And we look at it through the lens of transactional analysis, and we use the personality drivers. I'm hearing that you've got a really big please others driver and maybe quite a strong perfectionist driver and quite a healthy try hard driver. What else? Do you remember which of those you identified with?
Yeah, that that was a complete complete mind explosion, that particular session, because I think all of us had very similar drivers, and that led to many conversations with my wife, who's like, yes, that is you,
Yeah.
So yes, people please, perfectionist, getting everything done. The kind of, I would do everything until I stop and rest. And, even pre-long COVID, I would, by the time I sat on the sofa at the end of the day, I would fall asleep because I'd made the house perfect and tidied everything up. And these are the kind of, it was such a revelation, that I wasn't balancing my life. I was looking, out for whatever, deeper reasons to please people by everything being perfect in the in the house or my life or whatever that might be.
And I think, it is such an aha moment for a lot of people because we suddenly realize how we can, and all of us do it, I'm 100% in that gang too. We can very easily abandon ourselves. We can just abandon our needs, our physical needs, even if the body is calling very loudly to this drive to achieve perfection or to please other people or to not let people down or to not appear lazy or all of the things that are the kind of shame things that sit there in our shadow. And actually, it's a really important piece of people's recovery journeys for many because they suddenly realize, oh, I've been trying all of these things to recover, but I haven't actually changed how I treat myself. I've just been trying to find something really quickly and put all of my nervous energy into that. And actually, I don't know if I've actually really 100% changed my behavior in order to allow my body to recover from this very, very big thing that's happening for me. So at that point, what changed for you when I'm loving that you're talking about it with your family at this point and kind of going, what?
Well, I think I think this is why it was it's so difficult to give anyone a clear answer of what helped, because each week of the Fern program there was another aha moment, and there was something else where I was like, oh wow, yeah, that's me. That's not going to help. That makes sense. And I think the people pleasing perfectionist thing has up to this point today led me to a lot of reflection on why I do certain things, and who am I trying to please by doing that, and whether I'm looking after myself or not. And my family saw lots of these traits in me, and it really, I can picture that session and the questionnaire we did and the faces and chats of the 12 other people in my Fern group so clearly, Suzy, because that hour session was such a big moment. And I think the fact that most of us had a similar personality type in our group really was mind-blowing, because you're like, well, this makes sense. And going back to this kind of looking for the perfect recovery,
yes,
my energy was like, right, so I've got to do yoga, I've got to take this vitamin, I need to do this thing, I need to read this book, then it'll be the perfect recovery. No, that's the wrong vitamin, right? Try that one, now that will be the perfect recovery. And focusing on the things and never focusing on me, or that I think that was the key there. That was the key change. it's not about the things. It's about me and my brain.
Yes. And knowing that, your brain is your nervous system, it's like actually, and I say, don't I, at the beginning of Fern, and I try to remind people all the way through, this program is about falling in love with looking after yourself. And
Yeah.
a lot of people are just like, oh, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they realize kind of as they go through, oh my God, I'm really not very good at looking after myself. And hey, guess what? None of us are, because actually in society, we're not really encouraged to put our own needs first. It's deemed slightly selfish or,
Yeah. Yeah.
odd to be boundaried, to say no, to kind of say enough, to not make the house perfect. If you've got people coming around, be like, oh, wow.
Absolutely. It's crazy, and
Yeah.
so much
Actually,
wasted energy, and
so much wasted energy because, unless you are the sort of person that will go around someone else's house if you're invited for dinner and just run your finger along the skirting board. Dust, darling. And if that person is in your life, don't invite them round again. That's
I remember literally doing that in someone's house, and literally doing it and being like, oh my God. Well, they
right.
don't dust their house very much.
Who must they be?
Yeah, I know. How
Right.
embarrassing.
We are, by the time I think we get to the point where our bodies say no, we're so saturated in expectation and pressure and, the societal norms that we're supposed to adhere to. And it's just exhausting.
Yeah.
So, when I did a poll recently of, I think about 350 Fernies replied. And I was just saying, what do you think your most inhabited driver was and what was your second? And guess what? We've got perfectionist and please others right up there as those top two out of, a very large group of people. Gabor Mate talks about this in all of his work. He's like, the autoimmune condition tends to be more women associated and guess what? People with please others drivers, because they're just abandoning themselves so regularly, it becomes just a way of life.
Yeah.
Which means the body is compromised a lot. The health is compromised.
And I think, starting your courses, realizing that there was not many men on the course, I remember saying to someone at the time, I was like, I don't quite understand why there would be more women than there are men. But it's, when I was doing it, out of 100 people, there was maybe 2 or 3 men every day. And again, until I did the drivers with you, that's when I realized, and, I've always been in a more caring profession work-wise. And it fits,
It fits, absolutely.
Yeah.
If we looked at the demographic of, like sort of professional demographics, we have a lot of teachers. We have a lot of people that work in healthcare. We have a lot of people that work as kind of therapists, helpers, coaches, healers, because actually what they're doing all the time is putting the needs of the people that they're working with ahead of their own, because you sort of have to.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and I thought that was because we were all more some more viruses around us in those jobs.
right.
That was my take when I saw that there was more people in those professions.
Yeah,
but again,
100%. Yes,
that made sense, didn't it? But actually, it's more about the caring profession, more about the driver of those people.
Well, it can be. That's definitely a really big piece of it. I think another thing that I'm seeing is, a lot of people come in to the program who might not necessarily be in a caring profession, but have got some unresolved nervous system issue from the past. And that might be, a childhood trauma or an adult trauma or a combination of the both that has really sort of sat in their nervous system, almost kind of laying in wait for the point at which the body just says, I can't not express this now. And I'm going to express this by shutting you down. So I've definitely met, and if I just think about men, I've definitely met a lot of men for whom there has been things from their past that they go, I've just worked flat out. And suddenly this virus has been the one that just tripped the switch. And my body's said, no, you need to look at this now. You need to make big change, because we're not going to literally let you get up until you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of different things. So your life now has changed. So obviously you came out of Fern. Fern is, a 7-8 week process. It's not going to get you back upon your feet and return to who you are instantly, but it gives you the tools, doesn't it, to kind of start you thinking differently, behaving differently, and treating yourself differently. So talk to me about the timeline afterwards. Like, how long did it take you to get back up on your feet properly?
Yeah, so I think, like I say, I see Fern as a diving board for me, kind of going deeper in some of those subjects, reading, the Gabor Mate books, listening to the Rangan Chatterjee podcast every week, reading Bessel van der Kolk. There was numerous, and I was like, a really massively well respected, massive books, and they all spoke to me. They were all, you gave it to me quite concisely, and the more I listened and read, was like, wow, this isn't just long COVID. This isn't just that. It's about my brain. That's what all of these, highly regarded professionals have found out. It's about my brain. It's not about the virus.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, it's actually, let's just pause that moment there.
Sorry.
It's about what the virus triggered as a response in your body, because
Yes.
the brain, the nervous system, let's just talk about the brain, the nervous system as one thing for a moment. The nervous system had gone, I can't do this anymore. So the brain puts you into, and I like to liken it to a car. If anyone's driven a car that suddenly there's been a fault somewhere and it puts you in go slow mode, so you can't drive faster than 20 miles an hour. I think it's a bit like that. The brain just goes, I'm going to down-regulate you so that you can't put yourself at risk anymore. I'm basically going to put you in your bed until you figure
and absolutely. And I think that's what was happening. And what I say to people when I'm trying to get this story across briefly is that I needed to make my brain feel safe. Yeah. And my brain felt safe with more knowledge. That's what helped my brain feel safe.
Yeah.
And the books that a couple of podcasts that I listened to, the more knowledge that I heard, the more my brain was kind of swung into like, there's too much now. There's too much of this information which is telling me, and my brain eventually started to feel safe. But then kind of, so there wasn't really a kind of a moment, but then I got to the stage. So I started to feel safe. My brain started to feel safe. I realized that the yoga and the meditation was just helping my nervous system to relax for that hour. And whilst in the first month or whenever I started those things, I was laying there panicking about long COVID or doing a to-do list in my head. And it was when I realized and managed to calm my brain for that whole hour and not think of other things, then I realized that's why I was doing it, to calm my body and calm my brain. But that wasn't happening with those things. So then I started to enjoy them. Then I started to realize why they are. And I still do kind of yin yoga and meditation weekly now, and I'll never stop. That's kind of, what my body needs. I do, a couple of fabulous yoga sessions a week, and that's what my body needs. So then during that summer, I'd been off work for 5 months, got to a stage where the school had got someone in, and I had to have an extremely stressful meeting with someone challenging me about, maybe I shouldn't go back to work. I remember it being the last really awful moment of kind of my long COVID experience. The woman was awful to me. My head teacher was fab, but didn't really know what to do. He'd never really been in a situation like that. She was basically saying, I think you've been off long enough and you need to just stop, we eventually got to a stage where I agreed to a phased return. I was feeling better, but work was such a panic. In my head, I knew that work had not just work, but had massively contributed to me getting into the state that I'd been in. So we agreed a phased return, which must have started at the beginning of maybe the end of June, beginning of July. So I've been off for like 5 months. Um, Luckily, after that awful meeting, my head teacher was fab and was like, look, what do you want to do? Because you can't go back to your class. You've not been with them for 5 months now. They're working well with the supply teacher, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I would like to just enjoy my work for a few months. And I spent quite a lot of time with the reception class, just doing fun things. Reception teachers be really cross about, but it was just really fun. It was completely what I needed, and I just covered the odd class. So I didn't have any kind of the responsibility. So I can't remember exactly how many days I was doing. It was probably something like 3 mornings initially. But I think the important thing was that I was loving it.
Yes, you know, absolutely. Return to joy. Yeah, that's the whole thing,
100%. Right? It was so much fun. I love working with children. And you know, I was like, this is why I'm in this profession, because so that was great. Then we spoke about in September what class would I like, and I went with a year 3 class who they hadn't had any major behavior problems and things. So that's again a really nice age at 8. And for September, I had this, it was quite a gradual phase, but September I had 3 afternoons off. So it was 2 full days and 3 afternoons off. And then I went back properly full time in October. So this class was amazing. They were lush. They're just so much fun. And the afternoons off helped. But I guess there was still a fear that I couldn't cope with full-time work. And I think that's the challenge, because until you've managed to put that kind of burning fire completely out in your head, I didn't feel like I was fully recovered. I'd put in so then I 1st of October was back full time. And the funny thing about that is that I don't really remember those first couple of weeks, not because they were stressful, just because they felt normal.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. And then I'd been stressed up to it, or maybe not stressed, but just anxious. And then they just happened, and it just felt normal. The class were lush, the school was lush, everything was great. And it was probably a couple of weeks into October, and I was like, I've got no symptoms at all. I've got no anxiety. And so I kind of personally and with my family kind of celebrate the 1st of October as my recovery, because that's
amazing.
Like,
and that's just last year.
Hang on, 2003, 23.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm saying that. Yeah, 2023. So you know, that was signed off in January that year.
Yeah.
Started Fern in March that year, and back full time to school in October.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So looking at it all now, and I know you said something in your Facebook post about this that really caught my eye, that the piece around joy, you've really come to kind of lean into a lot, because you now understand the impact of it on your health and well-being and everything. Talk to me about that.
Going back to the school thing very briefly, well, this is about the joy, is that I go for a walk every lunchtime for half an hour now. And that's like, has to happen. And I go for a walk, and I think this came from you actually, the kind of just noticing, I breathe gently, and I notice the birds, and I notice the trees, and whatever the weather, I look for things which make me happy. And it's easy to find when you're in a better mindset. And I you know, my school isn't necessarily in the most beautiful place in the world, but I love it. So that's happened ever since then. It must have started in September that year. I can't remember exactly, but whatever happens, I'm going for a walk, you know. And guess what? The school's been fine without me. My class, they're fine without me. So,
falling apart because you took 30 minutes walking.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's it's not the thing to do. At a school, the thing to do is to be in your class all lunchtime, hardly make it to
Be
the staff room,
present.
and
Yeah.
just be like, oh, what might happen if I'm not there? And interestingly, since I started doing it, there's at least 3 other teachers who do similar now, and are like, well, if Mark can do it, I'm going to do it as well. And so, uh, and I leave. I'm so much better at prioritizing and just like, this is important. This isn't going to improve children's learning. This isn't going to help. So I'm just going to leave it. And I'm really good at prioritizing. My lessons are great. My class are great. And I've got a lot more time for myself. So, you know, and this year I'm back in a year 5 class who it's a little bit more challenging, but I to be honest, I feel like I can cope. I haven't had any other things. And then just sticking with joy, it's putting the opposite way round, the glass half empty, and just me and my wife go for a walk whenever we can. I'm much more present with my children. If the kitchen's a mess and I've got to spend time with the family, then the kitchen's a mess. It's just uh, there's like, it's a good example. We've managed to get away quite a lot during school holidays in the last year, 18 months. Just a night in a B&B by the coast, that kind of thing. And previously to this, I've seen school holidays as a time to kind of get through my to-do list of DIY jobs around the house and get back on track because term time's so hectic. And now we've prioritized nearly every holiday, like at least a couple of days away together, a walk by the beach, and I would have never done that. And I still, occasionally I'm like, oh, but I haven't cleared the garage or whatever it might be, but we still do it. We still do it. And you know what? I look back now, or I think I've been thinking about this. What do I remember most in the last year? The times that we've gone away for a weekend, our little breaks, the times I've spent with my children. I don't think about the tidy garage. You remember the things when you prioritize yourself and prioritize doing fun things together.
And the family must have just been revolutionized by this change in behavior from you, Mark. How are they all finding new you?
Yeah, I think it's it's been great. I feel like I'm a completely different person, and I think they do too. And I have to stop myself being sad about the times when I wasn't prioritizing them before long COVID, because I'm like, oh, that still makes me sad, but it's you know thinking about the future and thinking about how amazing the last 18 months have been, and weirdly, without long COVID, this wouldn't have happened.
No.
Which is just absolutely nuts.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And some people never get the opportunity to make these changes in their lives. So, the opportunity isn't always one that comes dressed as a nice, shiny gift. These big life-changing opportunities often are dramatic and unpleasant, and they have to shock us into stopping. But what I'm hearing is that everything that it's brought you now as a result, you wouldn't let go of for the world.
No, I'm just, it's I don't want to be too evangelistic in this kind of community, but I without this, I just, I'm a much better, everything's better in my life, and it's because of this, and I can't see what would have, maybe my body would have done something different in a different time, and possibly it would have, because without the fear of long COVID, which I think just topped my stress cup up, and overflowed it, something else probably would have, one assumes,
right. And
but maybe not.
our bodies will only tolerate our behavior towards them for so long, and I always liken, quite a severe illness as a point where the kind of body takes the keys back from the car and says, you're not driving anymore because
Yeah.
now we need to focus on you, all of you, and not just what you're doing out there in the world. And it's not, it's probably one of the hardest things anyone will ever have to go through. 100%.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. Like, I'm sat here with it's a broken knee at the moment, and I've got 10 weeks without putting any weight on my knee, and whilst I'm bored, I'm not. It compared to long COVID, it's nothing. It's body heals. Our bodies heal. Breaking thing. They know what to do with that, don't they?
Yes, they do.
The NHS know what to suggest with that, and it's tough. It's frustrating because I currently can't drive, and I currently can't take the children to school and things like that, or be at my job. But it's compared to long COVID, it's minuscule. It's and I'm just so lucky that I found you and your course, and it started me off, because I think there was when I got signed off with the GP and was prescribed antidepressants. I think that was the kind of sliding door moment where I could have stayed in that state, and luckily I managed to take a completely different road, and it brought me to a better place where I'm at now.
Yeah. Wow. And Mark, is there something that you're doing around retraining to be a play therapist? Did I read
Oh
that?
yeah.
Tell me about that.
So you kind of, I went back to school, was loving school, but really felt that I wanted to kind of help the long COVID community, wanted to maybe get into therapy or coaching or something with all of this new fab knowledge that I've learned, and to help people. But then you look at the kind of how much money one might earn, and I've got all of this experience of working with children for the last 30 years, whatever it is. And my wife's a social worker, and she found play uses play therapists quite a lot, which basically is therapy aimed at children. It's all the same things that you learn in therapy with adults, but it's therapy for children up to the age of kind of 11, 12, going down to 5. So I'm doing a postgrad in play therapy at the moment, and loving it, because I've learned so much of this stuff already, and I'm being able to put it into practice. And it's also a career with a respectable wage. So I feel like I'm going to this course, the illness has sent me on a career path, which I feel like, I'm not going to get into a big thing about schools and what's really helping the children, but I know for a fact that doing therapy with children, I'm going to really make a difference to those children. And that's ultimately what I want to be doing with my life.
Amazing. Oh my goodness, Mark, that is so inspiring to hear you talk about that. Amazing. Wow. Well, it certainly sounds like it has set you off on a really, really beautiful path. And I know this is not everyone's story, and there'll be teachers listening to this going, I've tried return to work 3 or 4 times, and then and it breaks my heart when, for some people, they just can't find a way to make it work and their bodies keep saying no. I just want to encourage people to keep remembering that if you fall in love with looking after yourself, really, really look at all the things that get in the way of that, there will be changes, whether that's just a change to how you feel about it all, or actually a physical change in the body. Those changes will be welcome, and they will feel nice to have. Okay. And once you start that movement, who knows what can happen next? It's a really inspiring story, Mark. I'm so pleased to have spent some time talking to you about it today. I'm utterly delighted to have been involved in any way, and to have been
a big way.
been part of the kind of catalyst. I'm just sharing what I know and what helped me, with others. That's what I'm doing. And it fills me with great joy. So thank you. Mark, I'm sure you'll have members of our community getting in touch going, Mark, what were the books? Mark, what was this?
I'm here for about 8 more weeks. I've got lots of time to answer messages. Less time when I go back to school, but
He's open for messages up until March. That's it. Okay, guys. Amazing. Mark, thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll see you in the community over your recovery period now. And lots of love to you and your family. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Lovely talking to you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Rest, Repair, Recover podcast. If today's episode gave you hope, made you smile, or even just helped you feel a bit less alone, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and maybe share it with someone who might need it too. So until next time, take care of yourselves and know that you're not on your own.